Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and we are talking about the San Francisco 49ers 12-6 loss against the Los Angeles Rams in Thursday Night Football in one of the worst games I have ever seen in the Kyle Shanahan era. It was rainy. It was gross. It was disgusting. The offense was terrible. Brock Purdy is playing his way out of a $65 million contract. Deebo Samuel can't back up his social media posts. De'Vondre Campbell quit on the team. But let's start with the positives because there aren't many. And they only come from one side of the football for the most part. The Niners defense was phenomenal tonight. I understand it's the Rams, but it's a Rams team coming off of a 44-point performance, riding high, playing well, and they held them to 4 field goals. Nobody got in the end zone tonight. The Niners defense looked like it was the 2021, 2022, and 2023 iteration of them when they're playing at their best. San Francisco's defense held Matthew Stafford to basically nothing the entirety of the game. The Rams offense, kind of like San Francisco's, looked stuck in the mud outside of one play when Javarius Ward got beat deep downfield. The Niners offense or defense answered the call 90% of the time. Stafford was 16 for 27 for 161 yards. Had it not been for a massive 51-yard gain late in the fourth quarter, he'd be held roughly to, 110, 120 yards on the evening. He had no touchdowns. But the story of the game for the Rams was Kyren Williams. He was awesome. 30 carries, 108 yards on the ground. He was their offense. It was a ugly ground and pound, muddy field that if you were going to get any push, it was going to have to come from your running backs. And in this game, Kyren Williams literally pushed the entire Niners defense forward, or I guess backwards, about 5 yards. I do want to give the Rams credit in this game, albeit San Francisco's offense, like many times this season, didn't answer the call. The Rams offense, in regards to Kyren Williams and Puka Nacua, just made the big plays when it needed to happen. Again, they only scored 12 points. It wasn't like they dominated. It wasn't like they were good. It's just timely plays that they hit that were the difference. Matthew Stafford continues to be a great quarterback. Again, not a great day in regards to the box score and fantasy, but evaded many sacks. He was the one making plays. He had a quarterback sneak. He almost ran for a touchdown that the Niners defense just destroyed him at the 1 yard line and got called back for a holding call, I think. He was awesome. Didn't turn the ball over, although he tried about 4 different times. He made the right play at the right time, is what I'm trying to say. Meanwhile, San Francisco's defense, I thought, again, looked phenomenal. They were awesome. The return of Dre Greenlaw, I think, is kind of what you start a show like this out with. Dre Greenlaw, happy to have you back. I know he didn't play the second half, or at least much of it. We'll get into that later in regards to what and who could have played in his place. But you can just tell this defense is different. They are more aggressive. They're feisty. He was flying around on that first drive. The entire time he was on the field, I wanted to get up out of my seat and go out there and play. I was so amped up. I was the anti-De'Vondre Campbell. I was like, put me in, coach. I'll play wherever you need me to. Because Dre Greenlaw, the way he plays is so infectious. Having him and Fred Warner back on the field together, it changed the entire mentality. You can tell that. I know Nick Sorensen gets his flack and whatnot, and again, I get it's the Rams, but you can see there was a semblance of the Niners' star-studded, dominant defense still out there on this roster. And you can see Nick Sorensen with Dre Greenlaw. You can tell there's a massive difference. That personnel, while Sorensen has his faults for sure, the personnel this defense usually has with Fred and Dre Greenlaw in the middle can make up a lot of those deficiencies that would have allowed San Francisco to win 1 or 2 more games this year. And maybe we're having a different conversation as to playoff hosts and seedings. But Greenlaw, electric stuff. He was hitting dudes left and right. He hit Matthew Stafford a few times. It was just the way he plays. It makes you want to join in on the fun. He's great in coverage. He was phenomenal against the run. He's blowing up running plays. It's just a Dre Greenlaw's world tonight. And for the first half, we were living in it. Unfortunately, he didn't get hurt, although he said his knee felt weird in the second half, but didn't seem to be serious. But that leads us to, well, I'll wait. I thought the coverage was tremendous in this game for San Francisco's defense. That 3.5 quarters outside of that one Charvarius Ward blown coverage play, they were sticky. There was no lanes to throw. There was nobody open. I wrote an article for theheavy.com discussing two key matchups for San Francisco. One of those was De'Vondre Campbell guarding Cooper Kupp. In San Francisco's offense today, although Puka Nacua was 7 for 97 on the day, take away that 151-yard catch he had, he only has 46 yards in 6 catches. Now, that isn't terrible, but it's not 97 for 7, and Cooper Kupp had 0 catches on the day. This Niners defense, Green, Ward, Isaac Yadam, Deommodore Lenoir, Hufanga, even Jair Brown for the most part, were just tremendous. Like, they deserve all the flowers because that unit, those 11 or so guys, deserve to win this game. Nick Bosa came back. They were getting pressure, although no sacks. There was some pressures. Yetur Gross-Matos was pretty good tonight. The defense came to play. It took the Rams 30 carries nearly by Kyren Williams to reach 108 yards. And the Rams are riding high again, but Kyren Williams in this one, I don't know what 108 divided by 29 is, but I'll get it to you in a second. 3.7 yards. Like, the Niners defense came to play. They were the reason why they had a chance. They played bend don't break the whole night. They held the Rams offense at bay. And we all thought, although we didn't know it was going to rain, this was going to be a shootout. That this game was going to be whatever defense can make one stop. But it wasn't that. This was which offense can find the end zone. And San Francisco wasn't the offense. In fact, there was no offense that reached the end zone, but it was really which offense could score the most field goals. And San Francisco's defense did everything right. They put themselves in a chance or in a place to win all night long. There were so many plays or so many opportunities for the Rams to score, and they didn't. You go late in the game, game's on the line. How is this game going to end? The Niners offense isn't moving the football. It's 9-6, or excuse me, it's 6-6. And even on that big Puka Nacua 51-yard catch late in the fourth quarter, they're on the 16-yard line of San Francisco. You're in instant red zone. One play, boom, they're in the red zone. It is a holy crap, backs against the wall. How do we come out of this unscathed? And the Niners stuffed the Rams 3 times. There was an amazing 3rd and 2 play where it's a pass play by the Rams, and Kyren Williams chips Leonard Floyd in pass protection, but annihilates him, just pushes him back 4 or 5 yards, knocks him on his butt, and you're like, wow, a running back should not be able to knock down our second edge rusher on the ground trying to make a chip block. On the same play, Williams kind of leaks out to his right. He becomes the check down option. Meanwhile, Fred Warner, who him and Hufanga are going back and forth communicating pre-snap, he runs from the right hash, or I guess his right hash, the actual left hash, and runs to the opposite side of the field and makes an amazing play, blows it up, holds the Rams to a field goal. And it's wow, it's only 9-6. The Niners have another chance to score, and they're driving. And this felt like this drive was the game for San Francisco. You're down by 3. The defense was doing their job all night long. Again, Cooper Kupp did nothing. Puka Nacua had 1 big catch. That was it. Stafford wasn't great. This defense was just 1 yard away from 4 different interceptions. That's really how San Francisco's season has gone. They're 1 yard away from winning football games. They are, a couple of yards away from, being, I guess, 8-6, you can say, or 9-5, whatever it may be. They haven't had enough. And in this game, the defense was more than enough for the most part. In fact, the entirety 4 quarters, it was like, wow, this was the best defensive performance the San Francisco 49ers have had, dare I say, for a year and a half, dating back to like 2022. Maybe the game against the Cowboys last year, the Jaguars game last year after the bye week, but like this has been as dominant as they've been for 2 years, it felt like. Like they held a good offense, a top 10 offense to 12 points and out of the end zone. Like this was the defense came to play. The defense came to say, we want to go to the playoffs. All the talk of desperation, all the talk of, you got to fight, you got to play with the sense of urgency. You have to do whatever it takes to win. The defense did that. Talanoa Hufanga was running around. He has a messed up wrist. He's playing. Fred Warner has a broken ankle. He's out there playing. Dre Greenlaw is giving you a half of excellent linebacker play. Nick Bosa has the oblique injury. Like all those guys bought in and sold out all day. There were so many plays that were clutch for San Francisco. They had so many red zone stands in this one. Again, the game is 6-3. San Francisco's leading, and the Rams take off 10 minutes on the clock. They run a 17-play, 65-yard drive for 9 minutes and 45 seconds. They get to the red zone. They're there. They're about to score. They have 4 yards to get into the end zone. And what does San Francisco do? They hold them again on a 3rd and 4 play. Bosa gets some pressure. And Stafford, like many times in this game, had to just give up on the play, throw the ball away. And honestly, like the defense deserves all the credit in the world for as much flack as we've given them. Nick Sorensen and De'Vondre Campbell, and Travarius Ward in the last month or so against the against the Bills and the Packers. This was the best they've looked. They again were phenomenal. Like I cannot give them enough flowers into what they were able to do. They're passing off coverages once again. The last 2 weeks, this defense looks like an entirely different unit. They're getting pressures. They're blitzing. They're doing everything it takes to win the last 2 weeks or so. And I have long said, although a lot of the defensive issues have come on 3rd and long and 2nd and long, and there's been problems for sure. The defense has just given the offense too many chances to win games, and the offense has never answered the phone, never answered the call, straight to voicemail. And again, the defense has had their problems. Nick Bosa's missed time. They can't get pressure. They can't get sacks. There's been, rather poor free agent signings, and Leonard Floyd and Gross Matos, who's missed a lot of the year, really haven't been who you wanted them to be. Hufanga's missed time. Jair Brown's played a pretty poor sophomore season. Travarius Ward's not been great in the final year of his contract. There's been a lot of bad things happening on offense and defense, but the defense, to me, has withstood a lot of the issues they've had. They don't get to have the luxury of still having or to say we don't have Christian McCaffrey. No, you've had your best players. Like you've had Fred Warner and Nick Bosa for the most of the season. You've had your top cornerback, your top safety in Mustafa, who didn't play tonight. Like the Niners, it's so frustrating to have to sit here and talk about a game like this, knowing that San Francisco, like almost 85% of their games this year, should have won. And the defense, like about 65% of their games this year, deserved to win. Special teams was pretty solid tonight. Jake Moody makes 2 field goals, which, I mean, yay, I guess. Even the punts, like there was one bad punt, but even then, like you're trading punts back and forth. San Francisco and the Rams would just punt. It's a freaking punt fest. No offense can move the football, and the Niners pin the Rams on the 2-yard line. Like they're just trading field position. Like this was everybody but the offense came to play, which the offense has not come to play a lot this year in pivotal games. But special teams didn't break them for once. Defense held their own for 4 complete quarters. They did everything they were asked to do. And unfortunately, you know, Kyle Shanahan's unit didn't get it done. And I want to pause here because I'm going to talk about De'Vondre Campbell in a second, but the defense just deserves all the credit. These guys were great. Great, great, great. Dre Greenlaw gave me hope for next year, if they can re-sign him, and I think they will, of what next year can be. That the bounce back is possible. That being a top 10 defense, top 5 defense again is possible. And I get it rained, and it certainly affected Stafford's throws and definitely Purdy's throws and whatnot, but that doesn't matter. Like, you were asked to answer the call, and they did. They were there. They were ready to make their last stand. And unfortunately, the opposing side of the team, the offense, didn't get it done. But I do want to ask you to like, share, and subscribe. Leave that review to the podcast. If you can, like the video on YouTube. I know I usually do live post-game streams. It's 11:45 at night on the West Coast. I don't think you'd be up listening or watching, but if you are, great. Hopefully you enjoy the show. But I wanted to give you a more kind of concrete thought on the game rather than kind of going through all the YouTube comment chats, which are great. I love them, but this game just needs to have a focus of this was a disappointing loss in a season that has been, well, disappointing and mismanaged, and it's a mess. There is no other fitting way to lose in how San Francisco lost tonight, because it has been a common denominator all year long. And in a week where, you're getting Greenlaw back and Garando's playing on a foot sprain, and everyone seems to be like ready to make this 4-week run to the playoffs. And, well, you have a quitter in your midst. Now, if you don't want to watch De'Vondre Campbell play football this year, it shouldn't be too hard. But if you want to watch your Niners play in the remaining home games they have, or you want to travel to Miami, you can go to SeatGeek.com and use promo code 49ers Access for $20 off your first purchase. Helps the show out, and you can get a discount on tickets. So go ahead and do that for me if you will. Or say you want to see your Golden State Warriors, or Willie Adames is a Giant. You want to go to a Giants game this year? You can still pre-order tickets at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. But let's get into, oddly enough, the biggest storyline of the game. That is De'Vondre Campbell. Wow. What a story. What a stupid, idiotic decision from a piss-poor player that has done nothing but hurt this team for the majority of the season. If you don't know, and I don't know how you don't, but if you don't know, I'll tell you what happened. So the Niners had been gearing up for the return of Dre Greenlaw for a while. The projected return date was tonight, week 15 against the Rams. This was the date they had targeted for a long time. They knew this was the date. And they knew in the offseason that, hey, Dre Greenlaw is going to return eventually. Like, he's going to come back and hopefully play. Now, they wish it was better conditions, record-wise and weather-wise, but they knew we had to find a Band-Aid, right? We don't trust D. Winters too much. We like Curtis Robinson, but he's unproven, who got hurt this year and didn't play at all after a pretty good training camp in preseason. And we have Tatum Bethune, but he's a 7th-round rookie. Like, can you really play that guy? So what they did was they went and signed Eric Kendricks, and then he said, no, I'm going to go to the Cowboys. Okay, great. We have to pivot. The Niners then pivot to De'Vondre Campbell, a former All-Pro, albeit past his prime, but an older, veteran player you hope can, again, hold the fort down just for 3/4 of a season and just be good enough. You don't have to be great. Just be good enough. And they're waiting like, hey, you know that your role is just to be a placeholder for Dre Greenlaw. I can guarantee you that was the conversation when they were talking to De'Vondre Campbell about signing in San Francisco. You'll get a starting job for the most part. They even told the media and the fan base and the team there was no competition during training camp and OTAs and preseason. It was De'Vondre Campbell's job, no matter what happens. Fine, thumbs up. I didn't love the signing. You can go back and listen to my reaction to it. I didn't like it then. There was problems in Green Bay, but okay, fresh start, see what happens, right? Um, Season starts, okay, first year in a new system, see how this works out. There were some early season struggles. And then there was a really bad play against the Rams. Like, against this very team, De'Vondre Campbell was a reason as to why the Niners lost that game late. Got called for a brutal DPI near the goal line on like a deep pass from Stafford. It just like, okay, like, but in recent weeks, Campbell has played better, which is like, cool, thumbs up, but Greenlaw's coming back. So thank you for your service. Here's your handshake. You are going to kindly move back to the bench with no problem. If something happens, like, my thought, and I'm sure everybody else's thought was, well, they'll work Greenlaw back in gradually. That Campbell will get some snaps, Greenlaw gets some snaps, kind of like Talanoa Hufanga against the Bears, where Hufanga starts, Greenlaw would start, but Jair Brown will play a little bit. You'll mix and match, right? Situationally, you'll figure things out as well. Like, there was still going to be hope or an idea that Campbell was going to play. Well, apparently, according to head coach Kyle Shanahan, De'Vondre Campbell quit on the team tonight, in the biggest game of the year, when everybody has to be bought in, sold out, that this is it. That this is going to be where we change the trajectory of our season, where even if we need help, we're going to do our best to give ourselves a shot to make a run. In a game like that, where your defense is playing lights out, 12-6 was the final score, you're stopping the run, you're stopping the pass, you look like a top 5 defense in football again, but Dre Greenlaw's coming back from the injury, so he, which, not shocked, had some fatigue. He needed to be spelled in the third quarter. And when Kyle Shanahan and the defense, I'm assuming, came, and the coaching staff came to De'Vondre Campbell and said, hey, get in the game. Like, Dre's out, you're in. He said, nah, I'm good. I'm not going in. He outright refused to enter the game in replacement of Dre Greenlaw. And I don't know about you, but while this year has just been mind-bogglingly stupid and dumb and just like Murphy's Law, everything that can go wrong will go wrong, I did not have De'Vondre Campbell, of all people, quitting the team on my bingo card. Like, injuries, sure. Purdy's regression, sure. De'Vondre or Deebo Samuel not playing well, sure. Him being a diva receiver, fine. Like, contract holdouts, yep, got that too. But De'Vondre Campbell quitting on the team, on the defense in the biggest game of the year, yeah, didn't expect that, but it happens. And it has sent shockwaves throughout Twitter and Instagram, and the post-game press conferences for the players were rarely like, yeah, there was some questions about the game and whatnot, but it felt like every single question was about, hey, De'Vondre Campbell quit. What's your response? And you have players like Tarvarius Ward, who, mind you, Mooney Ward's child literally died this year. His 1-year-old died, and he came back to hopefully make a playoff run. He's giving everything he has. A father that lost a child is still bought in completely. Even if his heart isn't in it, even if his mind isn't there, he still is lining up for 95% of the team's snaps, hoping they can find a way to eke into the playoffs and make a run. He's out there. After the game, Mooney Ward said, I feel like that was some sucker spit that he did. Definitely hurt the team. Imagine yourself going through the worst tragedy a parent could suffer, having to look at a teammate who actively walked off the field during the third quarter smiling in full uniform All he had to do was strip down. It would have been a complete Antonio Brown moment. But having to look at De'Vondre Campbell, who was not available to the media after the game, mind you, but I have to look at him and be like, look, I lost my kid. You lost your starting job, and you're still going to see snaps. The audacity of all people, De'Vondre Campbell, a guy who has played poorly, a guy who has not been a good player this year by any means, someone that, frankly, like doesn't deserve to wear a Niners jersey and really doesn't deserve to wear a jersey in the NFL. You don't break that bond. You don't break that trust. I would not be shocked if he is cut by the time this podcast comes out. I would not be shocked if he never plays, or I would be shocked if he ever plays a snap in the NFL once again. I question his heart. I question his mentality. I question everything about his purpose as a football player. If there's a game you want to play in, it's a game like this. And you have people like Josina Anderson who, fine, NFL insider, she does a good job. It's no mark on her, but her reaction to, well, let's hear De'Vondre out. What? What? What could he possibly say that could make anybody in that locker room, especially Mooney Ward, who lost a kid, or Trent Williams, who also lost a kid via stillbirth, or let's say, I don't know, Nick Bosa, which is not as big of losing a child, but has an oblique injury and played through it. Isaac Rendo, who sprained his foot 4 or 5 days ago and played through it. How about, let's say, Fred Warner, your linebacker counterpart, who has a broken foot, a broken ankle, still out there playing at a high level in this game. Again, De'Vondre Campbell. I wish you would have quit 4 weeks ago because the team would have thought a chance. They've rallied behind you quitting. This is the most unified they've been all year long. Yeah, wow, De'Vondre quit. That guy sucks. That guy sucks. And it'll be like the Jamal Adams meme where he can't get into the clubhouse with his key card. That'll be De'Vondre Campbell. And in fact, you had Kyle Shanahan postgame ask, like, what do you mean he refused to come in? He's like, yeah, I have never seen anything like that in my coaching career. And the media asked him, like, well, did he give you a reason? He was like, no. Now, to play devil's advocate here, to be Josina Anderson saying, well, wait a minute, let's hear De'Vondre out, albeit he's not going to get a chance to talk to the team. Okay, so you played 13 games. You played pretty poorly, but maybe you feel like that you're hitting a stride in the last few weeks or so. Like, he is playing better, but okay, maybe you're bothered by the fact that you're going to get benched, which, okay, I get that. As a player, you have to have some sort of ego. You have to have some sort of pride of like, I don't want to get benched. That's fine. I get that. But what did you think you were signing up for? Like, you knew this exact thing was going to happen, and you're acting like you're blindsided by this. Now, maybe there's conversations behind the scenes we have no idea about, or maybe something serious is happening. And if it is, then De'Vondre Campbell, I apologize and I wish you the best. But as of now, it doesn't seem to be the case. It just seems like he quit on the team, not before the game, not after the game, but during the game. He was asked, go in. He said, no, I'm good. Then I would like to think at some point one of the coaches said, then get the F out of here. And he walked to the locker room in full pads and jersey. But like, brother, you knew your role. You knew exactly what was going to happen to you once Dre Greenlaw came back. What, like, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around, like, what is his process? Like, what are you thinking? that would make you come to the conclusion of, I'm disrespected, I'm going to quit. From my understanding, you've known the deal. They have been telling the media and us as fans for like 3 weeks. Yep, Dre Greenlaw, Rams, he's on track for that. Yep, Dre Greenlaw coming back against the Rams. Campbell knows. I'm sure the conversations have happened when they signed him during the year, and I can guarantee you they talked to him either this week or like Greenlaw's been practicing for 2 weeks. What, like, it's not like this came out of the blue. You knew it was going to happen, brother. And it's funny, you go through his Twitter account and there's so many like, oh man, like people going to find out who I am on Instagram after he got released, I think, by the Packers or whatever it was, and his departure from Green Bay. He talked about on social media, like, somebody's going to get a great player. And it's like, yeah, they didn't get that at all. They got a bad player and a quitter. And his last social media post on Twitter, or X, if you will, was 8 days ago, or if it's the 13th, 9 days ago. And it read, no matter what you do in life, people are going to have an opinion about you. So you might as well just do it your own way and live with your own results, which I got no problem with somebody having some pride. I'm someone that walks their own path, that doesn't follow the crowd at times. I'm someone that is okay, is confident in myself, and like I'm good. Like I have the confidence. I believe in myself, and I can be alone, and I don't need to have friends or a lot of friends. Like I'm good. Like I'm a homebody. Like my brain's functioning fine. I get that. You want to walk your own path? Cool. You want to do your own thing? Awesome. I have no like thumbs up for you, man. But the fact that you being your own person and following your own path is quitting on a team that needs you at the moment, that has no place in sports. Go back to middle school and elementary school, baseball, basketball, football. And I get it, football's different. Like you were actively putting your body in harm's way for your brother to get better and win for the ultimate prize of winning a Super Bowl. But even in baseball, even in basketball, when your friends don't want to play or they quit or, you know what I mean? I mean, heck, you want to get on and play video games and your friend's like, nah, like you're like, oh, well, that sucks. Now you're not going to go out there and like berate them, but you're like, okay, like that blows. But like having sportsmanship dates back to like medieval times and jousting. Like you're going to get out there, you might die, but you're going to go out there fighting. De'Vondre Campbell showed his character. Like, sayonara, dude. Goodbye. You're a bad player. Like, get off the field. If you were a 23-year-old, first round tight end out of Maryland and Mike Singletary wants to yell at you a la Vernon Davis, and then you grow up and learn from that, fine. It's an ugly kind of, black cloud above you for a little bit, but you grow up and you learn. De'Vondre Campbell's in his early 30s. He's over the hump. He's past his prime. He's a bad player. There's no learning from this. If your heart's not in it, why are you out there? And you want to talk about being a pro, and you want to talk about, this, that, well, people are going to learn today. They learned a lot about you today. You're a quitter, and you don't belong on the San Francisco 49ers. And in my mind, I'm like, well, if you're going to quit in week 15, why'd you sign to begin the year? Why'd you take away snaps from D. Winters all year long? Why did we have to sit through 14 weeks, or I guess 13 games of you being an absolute freaking vortex of missed tackles in terrible coverage and terrible just edge rushing in regards to containing the edge all year? The Niners wasted their time with De'Vondre Campbell, who already wasn't in their plans next year. Like, I'm happy he'll be gone. Good. I get to watch D. Winters play, and hopefully next to Dre Greenlaw. The defense looks incredible in a half with those guys playing together. But like, what? Like, George Kittle summed it up the best when he said in his post game that if you're on the roster and you suit up, you're expected to play. Mind you, Campbell suited up. They wasted an active roster spot for him. If you didn't want to play, brother, just say you don't want to play. Retire, Vontae Davis style. Retire. Just tell Kyle like, just okay. Well, I'm not gonna suit up. That way, no one calls your attention to anything. That way, like, you're not even brought up. You just quietly fade into the night. But no, as Kittle was saying, if you're on the roster and you suit up, you are expected to play. People are going through random things off the field. I can't speak on that, but whatever his decision was, it wasn't for this organization. And so that's on him. Not very happy about it. It's hard to win football games when somebody doesn't want to play football. John Feliciano, offensive lineman, who has not played a single snap this year when he called in the offseason when he re-signed his last dance, said crazy. I do unspeakable things to be about to play. De'Amador Lenore, this team's rising leader in the locker room, making speeches, trying to rally the troops. He took to X or Twitter and said, I call you brothers deeper than the surface. Blood makes us related. Loyalty makes us family. I'll never quit on my brother no matter what happened. Cut from a different cloth, it can be 50 versus 1. I'm standing on all 10. George Kittle also said, it's very dumb, very stupid, very immature. I don't see how you can do that to your teammate. I've never been around anybody that's done that, and I hope I'm never around anyone that does that again. Nick Bosa said after the game, we're going to find out who wants to be here in the next few weeks. If you're healthy, you should play. If this is, which I think it will be, because in the postgame, Kyle Shanahan said that they're going to figure something out in regards to releasing or letting De'Vondre Campbell go. Yeah, you better. You better. He's been terrible, and now he's a bad teammate who quit on you. If you don't want to be in the relationship, say it before anybody has to get hurt. Say it before it becomes an issue. Have that conversation. Be a man. Which apparently he told Kyle before the game, like, hey, I don't want to play. Or there's been some kind of muddied, like, when it actually, the initial conversation happened. But what we know is in the third quarter, when Greenlaw couldn't go back in, Campbell said, no, I'm good, and quit, and walked off the field. See ya. Never, ever want to be ya. Although I'll take your money. I'll take your money. But like that, like what De'Vondre Campbell did today is exactly the kind of player, the actions that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, when they took over the job in 2017, made sure to eradicate from the organization. They cut players that have been here for a long time. They cut players that, had high hopes, but were problems that weren't bought in. They told those players to get out and never come back. There was a bad egg somewhere in the free agency signings, and they didn't even want him. He was not their first choice, unfortunately, or maybe for their case, fortunately. I think if he quits, they can void the contract. Maybe I'm wrong, but they ain't got to pay him. If you quit, that's on you, brother. The team gets to save money. And when you got to pay Brock Purdy and Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, maybe Traverse Ward and find a new center and a new left guard, new right tackle, like, we'll take the extra $1 million. That's all you're worth to us, man. Just a paycheck that is yet to be cashed. And I'm good with that. Cool. But let's move on. Let's get away from the defense and De'Vondre Campbell. Spent 40 minutes on that crap. Let's talk about the worst offensive performance in the Kyle Shanahan era. And I want to give kudos to George Kittle, who's doing his thing. Should have been used more, mind you. But I think the two biggest takeaways from this game was Brock Purdy and Deebo Samuel. Or it really could have been the Thursday Night Football crew thinking some random dude on the sideline was Trent Williams. And I was like, what? Couldn't find out. Trent's not even on the field. He's in the suite. Like, they just cut to some random black dude with the beard. Like, oh, there's Trent Williams. Like, no, that is not Trent Williams, man. That is the guy bagging groceries. Like you just pick some like what the heck? And I know we all love Al Michaels, but he was calling Jordan Whittingham all night. Like, this didn't know the players' names. It's a really bad broadcast from a legend in the industry. I digress. Back to this being the worst output in Shanahan's tenure while in San Francisco. 191 total yards. That is what San Francisco's offense totaled against the Rams in Thursday Night Football. Primetime, season on the line, 191 yards. That is the worst by a team in the regular season with Kyle Shanahan as the head coach. That includes 2017 with Brian Hoyer and CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins and Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. Literally the worst performance you could possibly have in the biggest stage thus far this year. Gotta win. Must win game. You want to have a chance to go to the playoffs? It starts with a win against the Rams. Nope. What a dud. They poo-pooed all over the field. They looked lost, discombobulated, confused, and they played like crap. George Kittle, thumbs up. Juwan Jennings, for the most part, besides two drops that I will attribute to the rain, thumbs up. You did your job for the most part. You were you. Isaac Grando, foot sprain. Cool. Offensive line was terrible. Terrible. They couldn't move the pocket. They were getting tossed and shoved around. I know they don't have Trent Williams. So what? Grando on a foot sprain. 16 carries, 57 yards. There was nothing there all night long. Jake Brendel, terrible. Banks, terrible. You notice when Benjamin Barch plays, they run the football pretty well. When Aaron Banks plays, can't pull guards, can't block. It's a bust of a second-round pick. A bust of a second-round pick, at least this year it has been. Jake Brendel reverted back to his terrible looking at his quarterback and his running backs get just beaten and broken up by defenders because he can't do his job. McKivitz wasn't terrible in this one, but he wasn't great. I think it may have been Jared Verse, just like bull rushing Eric Saubert into the ether. And the play didn't even matter, but it was just like, oh my God. Like, the Rams defensive line isn't great, but their pass rush is good versus a monster. And really even then, like, do you credit the Rams defensive line or do you just say, wow, the San Francisco can't block for you know what? Like, they can't block anybody. And, Jalen Moore was fine. Like, you can't expect him to beat Trent Williams, but he's been fine so far. Like, if they told me next year that Jalen Moore is the backup left tackle again, cool. And I would have never said that this year. In fact, I was like, what are we doing? When that was a plan. It was like, okay. But okay, fine. The Niners, 191 yards, didn't even reach the red zone. I guess if you want to improve your red zone stats, you don't go. You can't hurt them, can't make them worse. But didn't even get into the red zone against the defense. And again, it's raining, fine. But against a team you have owned, you're 10-6 against all time. You have swept them, I don't know, the past few years. Like, I get they lost last year in week 18, but it was backups. You've owned the Rams. You've owned their defense. You have scored points with Jimmy Garoppolo playing quarterback and Nick Mullins playing quarterback. You went toe-to-toe with them on Thursday or Monday Night Football with Brian Hoyer playing quarterback. I'm pretty sure I was in college when Aaron Donald got tossed out. No, that was Blaine Gabbert. Excuse me. Either way, you've done the job. You've gotten it done against the Rams plenty of times with Shanahan as a play caller and quarterback. But this is the first time San Francisco has not reached the red zone or scored a touchdown since a 26-3 loss against the Giants in 2012. It's been 12 years since they put together this bad of a performance. And even at least at that point in time, you can talk about, well, the Giants, they've won Super Bowls and they're a Super Bowl contender. Nobody thinks that against, or nobody thinks that way for the Rams. They've won one. Kudos to you out there in Los Angeles. But you didn't lose 26-3. You lost 12-6. 12-6. You played terrible. The deepest they got into Rams territory was the 27-yard line. It's a bad day. Play calling was weird. And a lot of that stems from Deebo Samuel. And I don't know if it was planned this way, but it certainly felt like that. The Niners, and the first time under Kyle Shanahan, catered to a player's ego rather than executing the offense. They targeted and forced the football to Deebo Samuel for a lot of the time. And it wasn't just on design plays. Brock Purdy at times was just locked in to Deebo. And, you want to go on social media and you want to make your stink and you want to speak your mind, fine. But if you're going to do it, back it up. If you're going to go out there and you're going to say, it's the opportunities that I'm not getting, that's the reason for my struggles, when in fact, Deebo, you walked into this game with the second most touches of anybody on the team not named Jordan Mason, who leads the team, who's on injured reserve. So you're going to finish the year with the most touches on the entire team. That you have been the least effective player on the entire offense when you touch the football. Career low in yak, career low in yards per rushing attempt, career low in yards run per route, and to make matters worse, you dropped the biggest play of the game. Would they have won the game because of this? I have no idea. Would they have, I don't know. It would have certainly changed the trajectory of the game. San Francisco finally marching. San Francisco finally putting together momentum in one of two drives against the Rams defense, which again is befuddling. But you have them. Brock Purdy throws a dart right into your hands, right in the breadbasket, as they say. And what do? All those thoughts of my tweets, my posts, my opportunities, they creep back into your head and you drop what would have been a likely walk-in touchdown, which at the time you're winning 6-6 or 6-3, whatever it may have been, you're winning. Or at least you're tied. It would have given San Francisco 13 points, which, well, when the game's over with, they lost 12-6. Now, obviously things would have changed, but then San Francisco late in the game, hopefully, would have gone for a field goal. Brock Purdy not throwing a dumb, ill-advised interception. Like Deebo Samuel dropping the football, albeit it wasn't the only reason why they lost. His lack of production has been a reason why they're losing football games. The force feeding of Deebo from Kyle, from Brock, like stymied their own offense. You talk about getting in your own way. That happened tonight. They catered to a diva receiver's ego to say, okay, you want to be angry, upset? Here's your touches. He's been the same player. I know we all talked about, well, an angry Deebo, like, oh, okay, breakout, here we come. No, this is who Deebo Samuel is. He's a below average, subpar, past his prime, over the hump, guy that talks too much, that can execute and will give you more problems than he's worth. The paycheck is too high for a player putting together replacement level production. And I love Deebo. The memories are fond. He's been a great player in San Francisco. But you talk about divas, Terrell Owens, at least you can back it up. You want to talk about being a diva and not backing it up? That's Deebo Samuel. Now he's not Antonio Brown. He's not, bitching and moaning every single day. But when you're talking about making tweets after a win that you want to change into a narrative about yourself, and then, okay, back it up. And you put together an overall terrible performance, which ended up with you dropping, again, what could have been a game-changing touchdown. But on 2 carries, you had 3 yards. And on 7 targets, you had 3 catches for 16 yards. So you touched the ball 5 times for a total of 19 yards. 5 touches, 19 yards, 7 targets. You want to talk about cap casualties and players that shouldn't be here, overpriced? Deebo Samuel is near the top of that list. Since he complained, so in this game, 2 carries, 3 rushing yards, 1.5 yards per carry, 3 receptions, 16 receiving yards, 7 targets, 3 drops in this game, and 1 false start penalty. That false start came on 3rd and 4, made it 3rd and 9. San Francisco converted, but he's actively hurting the team. Not just on the field, but also off the field now. You are forcing your quarterback and your head coach, because you want to say, I talk about my touches all the time with those guys, and you want to say you're not calling out the team, but in reality, you're calling out the team. Grow up, dude. You're almost 30 years old. You have a baby. You are, again, I love Deebo. He watched 2 balls go right through his hands today. Now, Brock missed him once, wide open, but Brock hit him in the hands twice today. That could have been massive, either a touchdown or a 30, 40-yard pass downfield. Like game-altering, drive-changing plays, Deebo Samuel dropped the football. He was a negative on the field. The price tag does not match the distraction. There's no Christian McCaffrey. There's no Brandon Ayuk. It is you, Kittle, Pearsall, and Jennings. You got to be one of the guys to help. Like, I can forgive Pearsall. Purdy flat out missed him tonight. I can't forgive Deebo Samuel. Like, the fun memories are there, but this is 2024. This is a Super Bowl window, right? You have to win, and you're actively making the team lose. A terrible day. A terrible day. Get off Twitter. Shut your mouth and just play football. I used to watch WWE back in the late 90s, early 2000s. The Rock, when he was there, when he was young, he would say, know your role and shut your mouth. I think Deebo Samuel can learn a little bit from Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Know your role and shut your mouth. Play football. You want to get paid millions and millions of dollars? You want to be a top dog? You want to be the X receiver? You want to be the wideout? You want to wear number 1? You want to carry yourself as Deebo freaking Samuels, the wide back, a new position? Play that way. Don't talk that way. Play that way. As of now, in 2024, Deebo Samuel is a front runner. He's a front runner that talks too much. If you want to talk about, Sterling, it's not his fault here or there, okay. Again, the offensive line deserves some blame. It's not always Deebo Samuel's fault, but as of now, he looks washed. Take his phone away. He doesn't need the football. He needs a pacifier because he was acting like a baby. The team makes a team-saving win against, or a season-saving win against the Bears. He's like, me, my touches, my opportunity. I'm not washed. I have to get the ball more. dropping big in passes of the game, two rushing yards, 3 rushing yards, whatever, 19 total yards, 3 drops. It's terrible. Terrible from what used to be one of the greatest players in the league. A player that carried the offense for a single season. We have to have, which we have been having, we have to have the conversation about Deebo Samuel's future. I don't care about what's going to happen next year. Revamp. I'd rather have a player that could help you than a player that's actively not helping you. And maybe it changes next year. Maybe it's just the funk that is 2024. But I am more so than ever open to a future without Deebo Samuel on this roster. I will be okay if he suits up for somebody else. Whether it's Kansas City or the Falcons or the Commanders, I do not care. I am open to Deebo Samuel not playing on this team next year, whatever the cost may be. Let's move to Brock Purdy. The other terrible performance on the day. Brock Purdy was terrible. He was overthrowing players. Maybe he's hurt. I don't think he is. Is the rain? If you can't play in the rain, you want $65 million and you can't play in the elements that sometimes happen in California, that sometimes happen in football. What are we doing? What are we doing? He overthrows Ricky Pearsall. That would have been a touchdown, just like last week against the Bears. That one, okay, miscommunication. This one misses him. If he leads him, it's a touchdown, alters the game. And then one of the worst throws of the night, probably the worst, the most damning throw of the night for him, was Juwan Jennings deep down the right sideline. He's not open at all. There's 3 or 4 Rams, one behind him, one in front of him, one next to him. There's no window there. Mahomes don't make that throw. Allen ain't making that throw. Burrow's not making that throw. No receivers even catching that football. And he just locks onto him and says, we're going deep. And it's like, what a terrible decision to make when you have Grendo for a check down, wide open. Keep the drive alive. It wasn't 3rd down. It wasn't 4th down. You're marching to tie the game. It's 6-9. You want to keep your odds alive. You want to force the Rams to have to score. And look, at least give your defense that's been great a chance to stop them, which they held them to a field goal the next drive and gave you another chance with like 30 seconds left. But still, you just can't make that throw. Brock underthrew so many balls. One to Kittle up the left seam, underthrew him. And I'm not sure if he's trying to get DPIs, but he was throwing balls into no man's land all night. He's jumping up, making throws, and I get the offensive line wasn't great, fine. The running game wasn't great, fine. I get that. But you want to get 65, like you want the bag, you want a record-breaking contract. You're actually playing yourself out of that. You're playing yourself to a $50 million contract, a $45 million contract. You're playing yourself out of record-breaking money because of the poor decision-making that you are executing. Brock Purdy looked the worst he has his entire career. He was 14 for 31, 142 yards, sacked 3 times, and 1 interception. He had a 45.4 passer rating and a 4.6 yards per attempt. The game came down to 3 plays. All 3 of them by the quarterback. One of them was a drop by Deebo Samuel, but the 3 pivotal plays in this game was Deebo Samuel's drop that would have been a touchdown. The next play was Brock throwing the pick in the back of the end zone for no reason at all. Like, there's no reason to make that play. In the very next drive, Matthew Stafford, or maybe in 2 drives, Matthew Stafford's big 51-yard throw to Puka Nacua to set up a lead for them. It's just like, I don't know if it's a Kyle thing, if it's a Brock not being in rhythm. He's not been good since the Dallas Cowboys game. Take the Bears game out, and I get the injuries involved in here too, but like Brock has not been great since the Cowboys game. The Buccaneers, he had 349 passing yards. Go watch the game. He was not that good. It's empty numbers. And I'm not like hating on Brock. He just wasn't good. He was terrible. He was terrible today. Like, he's just locking on to guys. He's force feeding Deebo Samuel. He's actively not even looking towards Pearsall's way. He was open a lot of the times. Pearsall in this game had one great play. One great play. And it was a great throw by Brock. There's a linebacker in the way. He moves up in the pocket, hits Pearsall for 16 yards. And it was like, okay, Ricky. And then like on 2 plays later, throws the pick to Jawan Jennings. You're letting Akella Witherspoon lock Deebo Samuel down. Kittle is rarely involved in the offense. He's been your best player all year. Like, what the decisions were so frustrating. And you can blame Kyle for sure, and I'm sure we can dive into it more during the weekend or so, but it's like, you got one drive on the line, and your quarterback cannot make that play. Their quarterback has to be the one to lift you up when everything else goes wrong. Brock has done the exact opposite of that. Now, at times he's done that, but against the Cardinals earlier this year, one drive to go, game on the line, score, you win, interception. Game against the Seattle Seahawks, can't get it done. Tonight, can't get it done. Brock is a good quarterback. He's a tier 2 quarterback when he's fully healthy, when he's his best. He's like just out of the elite category. We've seen him play with Christian McCaffrey and Ayuk. Like, when everything looks great and perfect and good, he's a heck of a quarterback. But as this year has progressed, and again, maybe there's something else going on, but he has gotten progressively worse. He's regressed. Bad decision-making, forcing passes. The arm strength he was lofting balls like they were rainbows. It just didn't look like Brock Purdy, but I don't think it was the rain. It dried up towards the end of the game. Stafford's out there slinging the football, and Brock can barely throw the football accurately 15 yards downfield. Where was the attack over the middle of the field tonight? The Rams defense sucks. It's terrible. Gave up 42 points against the Bills last week. They gave up 186 rushing yards on average the last 3 weeks. Their passing defense is terrible. Their secondary didn't even have their number 1 cornerback. They're terrible. And Brock Purdy gives you the worst performance you can possibly have without multiple interceptions in one night. There really isn't much more to say. Brock wasn't good. The offense wasn't good. There are so many bad choices, so many bad decisions that just make you question what the thinking was. And really, like, you talk about the offseason. I think it was Rappaport said this week that the Niners are still committed to Brock Purdy, and I believe that, but then ESPN's Bill Barnwell said today, which it doesn't mean much, but was like, Brock's probably going to ask for $65 million. Are you really committed to giving Brock Purdy $65 million after this? When you're like, hey, lead me. Things aren't great. Pick me up. Like, we need you to be the boat that lifts all tides, whatever the saying is. Carry us. Brock hasn't done that. There's been times where you're like, wow, that wasn't Brock's fault. Wow, special teams and bad running games and terrible defense. Like, this year has been a myriad of problems for this team. And Brock has not been one of the biggest ones by any means. And there's been so many problems, again. And he's dealt with no Ayuk and no Chris McCaffrey and playing Ronnie Bell and Chris Conley and, trying to work in Ricky Pearsall. And it hasn't worked. But you also still have Deebo Samuel, who I know isn't having a great year by any means, but like, you have an all-pro tight end, probably a future Hall of Fame tight end. You have, for most of the year, you had a league-leading rusher in Jordan Mason. You had Chris McCaffrey for a few games, but he got hurt again. But you have Grendo, who was excellent against the Bears and was a 4th-round pick this year. And you got Pearsall, a 1st-round pick. Like, you have Jawan Jennings. Like, I can tell you, a lot of teams would take the offensive firepower the Niners have currently without CMC, without Brandon Ayuk. They'd say, yeah, give me Kittle and Deebo and Jennings and Ricky Pearsall and Cowling and Garendo. I can make that work. That's not happening this year. And, Greg Cosell, who is one of the greatest NFL minds in media today, talked about like you cannot make wholesale changes mid-year. That's fine. I get that, Greg. I mean, you're on the same page. You can't change the scheme in the middle of the year. But this offense has to change. Like we are watching subpar talent compared to what San Francisco has, like below their level, play up to them, beat them. Like the Cardinals, I know they have Kyler Murray and they're young and they're feisty, should not have beaten San Francisco early in the year. The Rams, early in the year, shouldn't have beat San Francisco, and they shouldn't have beat them tonight. The Niners are a much better team than the box score says. But in that same reality, the Niners are a worse team than the box score says. Because while they are so close, they are so far. And, now we're having questions about Brock Purdy's future. Is he the guy? I'm not sure. Now, I'm not jumping off the boat. I'm not abandoning ship, but he has a limited arm. It's not terrible. It's not Jimmy G. It's not, Derek Carr. It's not Daniel Jones, but you are going to commit yourself to him. Okay? If that's what you choose, fine. You have seen so many teams when they commit themselves to mid-tier quarterbacks or quarterbacks that are game managers are just not good enough. Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff at times, albeit Goff has bounced back with Detroit with the crazy offense, but he's making plays because he has a pretty good arm. Like when teams commit to the Kirks and the Daks and the quarterbacks like that, you've seen people lose jobs. You've seen people and teams be competitive. Oh, they won 10 games. Oh, they're 9-8. Cool. They sneak in and they lose in the first round. I'm not saying Brock is Dak. I think Brock's better than Dak Prescott. I'm not saying Brock is Kirk Cousins. Cousins looks terrible now. But with him being limited offensively in regards to his arm talent, and like he's not making the big time throws, he's making some big throws, but he isn't making them consistently. Brock was 0 for 7 on passes 20 plus yards tonight with one interception. It's just not there this season. And last year he was so efficient, and last year Brock did almost everything perfect. And this year it's like trying to like push through the bushes and the weeds to find the great play at times. And it's there, but when you're talking about committing a lot of money and maybe having to say goodbye to Hufanga or Greenlaw or Deebo Samuel, which doesn't sound too bad now, or JavonHargrave, which, okay, or Mooney Ward, or not being able to add free agents or edge rushers to help the defense or sign a center or a right guard or, a left guard or a right tackle. Like when you're telling the offense, like, hey, Brock, we're going to sign you to a big contract and you're going to have to win with less than you have now. Do you think he can do that? I don't know. I am more comfortable letting Brock play out his contract. I'm more comfortable telling him, you signed a 4-year deal, brother. Welcome to year 4 next season, because I have to see more. Now, he was great in 2022. He was great in 2023. MVP finalist. And players have down years, and maybe it's just that 2024 juju. You lose a Super Bowl, Pearsall gets shot. You have players that lose children. McCaffrey doesn't play, and Ayuk holds out, or I guess holds in. Then he gets hurt, and then Deebo is on the field and off the field, and he's on social media. Then Kittle's playing, and he's not playing. And when he's playing, he's great. And Pearsall comes back, and then Trent Williams goes out, and Bosa's hurt. Like it just feels like there's so many things to point to and be like, yeah, no duh, they had an off year. Like I would bet they bounce back. I bet Purdy bounces back. He had 2 great years in a row. Usually that's not the outlier. Usually you have, you know, a good year than a bad year. Like, I don't think Brock is Matt Castle or Daniel Jones or quarterbacks like that. Like, to me, Brock is a good quarterback having a bad year, but he's having a bad year in a potential contract season, which might be best for San Francisco. But when we're talking about committing to a quarterback and trying to find the guy to lead you and pick up the slack and be the difference in the scheme, or when the scheme fails and when your receivers and your tight ends fail, like Brock hasn't been that. And that's it was really seen tonight. And I don't want this game to be a referendum on his career because it's not that. Like Brock is a good quarterback, and I think he'll be fine. But you know, he's not great in the rain. The arm strength's not there. Poor decision making. Like Brock Purdy said tonight that I feel like I failed the team, and yeah, he did. He failed the team, and it's a hard pill to swallow. A really hard pill to swallow. It's an unfortunate pill to have to swallow in a game like this where the offense musters 191 total yards and 6 total points. It's unacceptable. It's a terrible way to essentially kiss your season goodbye. And it's kind of embarrassing. Like, I love Brock. I really do. I really, really, really do. He's a great dude. He's a good guy. He's a good teammate, good quarterback. Just really hasn't been, you know, he ain't been himself. And there's a stat here by Josh Dubow of the Associated Press says when Brock Purdy is down by 1 through 8 points in the fourth quarter, in the regular season or the playoffs, he's 33 for 60 for 402 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions with a 57.8 passer rating. That ranks 144th out of 160 with quarterbacks with 50-plus attempts in that scenario since the year 2000. I'm not saying Brock can't come back. I'm not saying Brock Purdy ain't clutch. It's a heck of a lot easier to play from ahead, though. And Brock and I think San Francisco got real comfortable with Ayuk and CMC and playing ahead. And when you got to play desperate, you also got to play smart. And Brock preached desperation. He also didn't play smart tonight. He was really, really bad. Probably the worst we've seen all year. And maybe his entire career. Just, I'm sure there's more throws I'm missing, but like those 3 come to mind. The Pearsall miss, the Kittle underthrow, and the Jennings throw. But he just was wild. He was erratic. He looked like Ricky Vaughn from Major League Baseball, right? Where he's just throwing the ball left and right, and you're like, whoa, wild thing. Like, what is going on? But to end the show, I think it is fitting to share with you exactly how the 49ers can somehow still make the playoffs. They're 6-8. It is a very, 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 very thin window, but it's possible still, I guess. The Niners' path to the playoffs, per the Upshot, an analytical journalism group for the New York Times, states the Niners must win out, so they have to beat the Dolphins, the Lions, and the Cardinals. Have to finish 3 consecutive wins and finish the year 9-8. Got it? Cool. They have to have the Commanders lose at least 3 of their next 4 games. Not impossible, but not likely, but okay. Got to do your job and got to hope the Commanders lose 3 of their next 4 games. The Cardinals have to lose Week 15 or Week 16. The first one against the Patriots, second against the Panthers. Panthers are playing better. I can see that happening. And the Patriots with Drake May look like they have their quarterback in place. The team still sucks, but you never know. So again, not impossible, just not likely. The Rams have to lose their next 3 games. So again, not likely, but still possible. And the Falcons have to lose at least 2 games. So, of the things that have to happen, the most likely are the Cardinals losing 1 game in week 15 or 16 and the Falcons losing 2 games. Those ones kind of feel like locks to me. So you're kind of banking on the Commanders just falling apart and crumbling, which could happen. You never know. And the Rams losing out, and the Niners having to win out. So thin margins for error continue to be the theme of the season, but um, still, the door's open. They cannot open it themselves even more, but they got to win. You can beat the Dolphins. You can beat the Cardinals. The Lions game a little different, but to end, I'll say there is a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance. All right. That's a good place to end the show. Terrible game by San Francisco. Great defensive performance. Love having Dre Greenlaw back. It made me feel great and optimistic as to what can come next year for this team and this defense. But Brock Purdy, terrible. Deebo Samuel, washed. Kyle Shanahan, figure it out and hope 2025 can be better. And yeah, if this is the end of the San Francisco 49ers 2024 season mathematically in the playoffs, well, you went out with the whimper, is how I'll put it. But that's all I have for you today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I know we were hoping to celebrate a victory Friday, but it was not the case. But yeah, enjoy your Sunday slate of football, and you may be enjoying a rather pressure-free winter, Christmas holiday, January type of season for you in 2025. The pressure will be off. Kick your feet up because we're not going to the playoffs. But unfortunately, the year has kind of given us more questions than answers in regards to Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, and others. That said, if you could follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. Again, go to SeatGeek.com, and save yourself $20 off by using promo code 49ers access 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com. You can also go to SportsSpyder.com for your latest updates on your favorite team, all in one place. NBA, MLB, NFL, Niners, Packers, Lions, Bears. It does not matter. Rams, doesn't matter. It's the one-stop shop for the latest podcast, articles, news updates, injury reports of your favorite teams in professional sports at sportsspyder.com. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review. And my name is Sterling Bennett. And as always, if you can, don't be like De'Vondre Campbell and stay faithful.